Hello everyone. It's Tracy here from Cheeky Journals. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm documenting a period of time instead of a specific day. I don't have any pattern or system in place of how I group my entries. I usually mix it up and do what feels right at the time. In my junk journals, I tend to focus either on a day, a weekend, week, or even a month that revolves around a similar or specific theme. I don't always do this, but mostly. And in this session, I'm choosing to include ephemera and highlights from a 6-week period that I spent with my niece before she had to go to school. So starting off, I have used a magazine image from a Daphne's Diary and just stuck that down as a background. And then I've also over that added some Tim Holtz tissue paper. And then this postcard, I want to create a pocket out of it. So I'm putting some glue at the top, on the side, and at the bottom. And I'm leaving one side open. And this, I love adding tuck spots and pockets. I think it's very handy because if you're anything like me, I usually have some ephemera pieces or memorabilia that I forget to add to the entry. And a few days later, I remember. So it's always handy having that so you can just slip it in and it's easy to incorporate it into your entry instead of trying to find a spot to tip something in after you've actually done all of your journaling. Alternatively, you can paper clip it in. So I always love adding those types of things and having extra space. And then I've added some washi over the top and I'm planning to tuck in that business card on the right hand side that says the last piece into my pocket. And that is a place where we had some lunch from a cafe, and it's actually also where I got this postcard from. And then if you've been watching my junk journal with me, you will know that I've made this journal and I have sewn a few things in. So on the left hand side, that tuck spot was already in this journal. And underneath that, I've decided to add more of the Tim Holtz tissue paper, some washi, and then also that card from a Frankie magazine. And I'm going to put my date on that later. I've printed my photos a little bit different, sort of like in a bookmark form, and I've just tucked that behind the tuck spot. I really love that look. And then on the right hand side, I'm adding a few stickers, or I've added one sticker from a sticker book, and then some cheesecloth that I have stained with some distress ink. That was really fun. And then I'm just adding this postage stamp. And I really love how both of these pages turned out. I'm not completely done with that one, but I'll come back a little bit later. For now, I'm moving on to the next page. I really want to include this floral image that I got from a vintage flower book. I love visiting secondhand bookshops and also secondhand shops in general. And my favorite thing to look for is books. So I got that book from a secondhand bookshop and I've cut it out. I want to use that floral image on there because during our 6-week period of bonding time with my niece and I, we actually went to walk in parks and gardens quite often, and our favorite thing was to stop and smell the flowers. So that really strengthens that memory, and I'm going to add a bit of a collage there with the pink paper. Underneath that, I've got piano roll paper, and then I've used tracing paper and I've stamped a text on it. So that's just off to the side. I'm waiting for it to dry and then I'll put everything together. But in the meantime, I thought I'll move on to the small page where I want to stick that photo, but it's just a little bit bare and I think it needs some sort of color. So I'm using the stencil and some pink paint with a sponge. I really love the effect that the sponge gives. So I'm just adding some paint through the stencil to get that pattern on there. At first, the first layer is quite light, so I'm adding a second layer. And the reason why it's so light is because I have wet the sponge. If you don't wet the sponge, the paint, like the sponge sucks up the paint so much that you hardly get any paint on the paper. But definitely, if you wet the sponge, just try and get out as much of the excess water as you can. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm carrying on with this collage piece and putting it together. This tracing paper with the stamp, I want to stick it there, but it looks a little bit too small. So I've stamped it out again because I just wanted it to be slightly bigger. I wanted to overlap from the pink paper to the tea stain paper. And then I'm just going to add the floral image over that, and I'm going to get out some Tim Holtz word stickers just to stick over the flowers, so it sort of seems like this sticker is holding the flower in place. And that is nice and dry, so I can stick my photo down there with some glue. And again, using some of that brown and narrow washi, I have actually used it on most of the pages on here just to have that continuously going through. It's very plain, but I actually like it. It's something different with all the colors and patterns already on the page. So I want to include the pattern that we have already sponged out on this page as well. So I'm just going sort of over the postcard, and it's also going to overlap to the magazine image. And now I just need to wait for that to dry, but I'm not very patient. So I'm going to use my paint as a bit of a holder to keep everything in place. And then I've still got some paint left over, so I'm just using the sponge and dabbing some of the paint on this last page. And after everything's dry, I can carry on. So I'm using my Dymo labeler, and I'm just going to do the date and also a few words that I can stick around this spread. And then grabbing more of that brown washi and just sticking it down here. There was definitely something still missing on this page, and I think that was the perfect thing to add there. I'm going to come back later on and add some more, but for now I'm moving on to the last page, and I've got this linen printable that I bought from Little Bindi. And I'm going to stick that on this butterfly page. I love the butterfly page, but I just needed some or wanted some extra journaling space. So that definitely creates it. And then I'm going to add these hand luggage tags. And I'm using some embroidery thread to thread through it. And I first thought that these hand luggage tags I want to add to this page, but I wanted to be able to tip out so that it's interactive and you can still see the layers at the bottom. So I wanted to staple it at first so you can lift it, but I realized I've got photos and that's definitely not going to work because I've got some little photos there and it's going to maybe go through something that I don't really want it to go through and just ruin everything. So I ended up putting glue at the bottom and thinking I will still be able to lift it up, but very, very quickly I realized that's not going to be the case. So I wiped the glue off and instead I'm just using some washi tape to tip it in. Then I've got this envelope. There's a little note in there. The first day that I arrived back home, there was a knock on the door, and I've got a flower delivery from my family saying thank you for the visit. So that was very kind of them, and I wanted to include it. And then in the top, I'm just adding, or at the top, I'm just adding some music paper and a sticker from a Maggie Home sticker sheet. And then I'm going to get that sticker sheet out again, and I'm going to add another sticker on this envelope. And I am also going to, on the left, you'll see I've got loads of things lying there. So I'm just going to go through that, and I'm also sticking a mushroom down. And I am also going to do a butterfly that I got from a magazine. And as I've mentioned, we're coming back to this page. I want to add again this pattern, just in a different orientation, and also not using paint but using some blue distress ink. And then I am just going to go through all the pages, make sure I've got everything that I wanted, and then I have done my journaling off camera as always. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.